What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Thursday, September 2nd.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 5-game slate here tonight, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. I like Triston McKenzie with a 1% pitching advantage over a low salary batting team, the Kansas City Royals. Triston McKenzie is only giving up a .580 OPS versus righties, and he's facing 6 righties here tonight. On top of that, the Royals have only hit 6 of his last 48 pitches. That's a 125 batting average. Triston McKenzie is $8,800 FanDuel salary, $500 more on DraftKings, projected at 30.9 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 4.83. His record is 3-5 on the season, pitching an average of 81 pitches per game, averaging 26 fantasy points per game, and he's been on fire, scoring 52, 67, and 31 fantasy points in the last 3 games. Now, he is coming off of a shoulder injury. He was out with right shoulder fatigue, but they say it wasn't as serious as they thought. So just a word of caution there, but I think he should be good to go here tonight. So I like Triston McKenzie here versus the Kansas City Royals. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. I have a value play for you. I like Colin Moran with a 37% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Keegan Thompson. Colin Moran is batting 21% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .824 OPS versus righties. And Keegan Thompson, he pitches his worst ball versus lefty batters, 16% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .819 OPS versus lefties. Now, there's no at-bats versus Thompson yet, but I like this pick because Colin Moran is only $2,600 FanDuel salary, $800 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 7, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Colin Moran here versus Keegan Thompson. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Ian Happ with a 36% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Mitch Keller. Ian Happ is batting 17% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .802 OPS versus righties. And Mitch Keller, he throws his worst ball versus switch hitters, 18% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .936 OPS versus switch hitters. And I like this pick because Ian Happ is 5 for 8, batting a .625 batting average and a 2.2 OPS versus Keller. 2 of those hits are for home runs, then he's got a double in there. Ian Happ is $3,000 FanDuel salary, $1,400 more on DraftKings, projected at 13.1 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 9, 19, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Ian Happ here versus Mitch Keller. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I like Yandy Diaz batting against Eduardo Rodriguez. Yandy Diaz is batting a .747 OPS versus lefties, and Eduardo Rodriguez is giving up a .740 OPS versus righties. But the reason I like this pick is because Yandy Diaz is 8 for 14, batting a .571 batting average and a 1.268 OPS versus Rodriguez. He's 3,000 FanDuel salary, 1,300 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.5 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 19, and 9 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Yandy Diaz here versus Eduardo Rodriguez.
Real quick guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, who do we have at the shortstop position? I like Dansby Swanson with a 27% batting advantage over a low-salary pitcher, Chichi Gonzalez. Dansby Swanson is batting 23% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .838 OPS versus righties. And Chichi Gonzalez, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .903 OPS versus righties. Now there's no at-bats versus Gonzalez yet, and Dansby Swanson is 3,500 FanDuel salary, 2,100 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.8 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 19, 3, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Dansby Swanson here versus Chichi Gonzalez. I also like Ahmed Rosario with a 38% batting advantage over Mike Minor. Ahmed Rosario is batting 25% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .824 OPS versus lefties. And Mike Minor throws 13% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .758 OPS versus righties. Now the thing that I don't like about this pick is he is 0 for 5 versus Minor, but the splits are pretty good, and he's 3,400 FanDuel salary and only 900 more on DraftKings. Projected at 9.8 fantasy points here tonight. He's averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 57, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Ahmed Rosario here versus Mike Minor. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. I like Randy Arozarena with a 22% batting advantage over Eduardo Rodriguez. Randy Arozarena, he's batting 34% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.185 OPS versus lefties, and Eduardo Rodriguez is giving up a .740 OPS versus righties. Randy Arozarena is 3 for 6, batting .500 with a 1 OPS versus Rodriguez. He's 3,600 FanDuel salary, 900 more on DraftKings, projected at 14 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 25, and 22 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Randy Arozarena here versus Eduardo Rodriguez. I also like Brandon Nimmo with a 53% batting advantage over Zach Thompson. Brandon Nimmo is batting 12% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .872 OPS versus righties. And Zach Thompson, he pitches his worst ball by far to lefty batters, 40% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .877 OPS versus lefties. Now, Brandon Nimmo is 0 for 3 versus Thompson, but the splits are good, and he's only 2,900 FanDuel salary and only 700 more on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites, projected at 10.7 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 9, 18, and 3 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Brandon Nimmo here versus Zach Thompson. Now I also like Rafael Ortega with a 100% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Mitch Keller. Rafael Ortega is batting 75% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .923 OPS versus righties, and Mitch Keller is throwing 24% worse to lefties as he does righties, giving up a .870 OPS versus lefties. There's no at-bats versus Keller yet, and Rafael Ortega is $3,400 FanDuel salary, $700 more on DraftKings, projected at 12.5 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season. He's in a little bit of a slump, scoring 0, 3, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games, but the splits are good here, so I like Rafael Ortega here versus Mitch Keller.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.